All right, so this video is going to be about what's the best equipment to carry if you're homeless or living on the street. And to be honest, this equipment is best for all scenarios, in my opinion. This is what I mean. I lived on the street on and off for about 10 years. I was mostly on the street that whole time. But this is the system I came up with, and I'm going to explain it as well as I can. And I actually broke it down into categories. Like this is I took notes and everything for this video. So because I feel like this is important information. So basically, when you have to carry everything you own, you're gonna have to be real smart about what you carry. You know what I mean? I always carried a lot of weight, but I've also always been the type of person who doesn't mind carrying a lot of weight. Whenever I see people used to complain like, "Oh, my backpack's killing my shoulders." That's foreign. I never had an issue with that, and I had so much crap in my backpack. I believe it's all a state of mind. People who think like, "Oh, this is going to be heavy," I didn't think that way. You know what I mean? I like to have what I need, and there was you'd be amazed how many people live on the street who are so unprepared that it's a miracle they make it even a week, but they'll be out there for years. Then there's other people who they'll just ditch everything they own because they're tired of carrying it. I've lived like super high discipline compared to a lot of people out there because my thing is I like to get good equipment and then I got it and I don't got to worry about it. But a lot of these people on the street, and don't get me wrong, everyone's different. But there's a lot of people on the street who they're in a way they become almost domesticated. What I mean by that is every day they sit and they kind of beg for money, and I don't blame them for doing that. I never did it, but look at my videos if you want to know my full story. I never panhandled, but it was, I felt I didn't have the right to panhandle, put it that way. But the people who do, what happens is they get stuck in this habit of just having everything handed to them. So I knew homeless people that if they didn't feel like carrying their stuff, they would just leave it on the street and then go beg, you know, go people would come by being like, "Is there anything I can help you with?" They'd be like, "I need a sleeping bag." And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, "You left your sleeping bag this morning because you were too lazy to carry it, and now you're going to play this pity role and basically swindle these people into going. They take them to Walmart and they buy them all this stuff. Within a week, he's going to just ditch it all and then talk someone else into doing it." Now, I'm not saying like I would be sitting there all jealous and mad about it, but I'd be sitting there thinking to myself, like, that is such an inefficient and stupid way to be when you could be building up and trying to get off the street. You just you decide to be lazy and you just leave all your crap and then you have someone else just replace it all for you. And I'm like, you know, and they're only punishing themselves. What they're doing is they're putting themselves in this endless cycle of being homeless and having nothing. It's like if you want to build up a future, man, you got to start and build. You don't just ditch everything because you don't feel like carrying it. And it's like I to me, it's not a it's not that hard to just be disciplined enough to pack up your crap and take it with you in the morning. It's not that hard. But well, then again, believe me, there was plenty of mornings when I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like laying in my sleeping bag. It's 10 degrees outside, and I'm like, oh man, I do not want to pack up my camp. This is going to be rough. One time, I'll never forget it. It poured one night. This is in the winter. It's rare for it to just rain and pour in the winter. It's usually either snow or the rain doesn't last that long, but this time it rained like all night. And on top of the rain, it was very cold. So when I woke up in the morning, not only was everything wet, but I was freezing. And so And the weather was so cold, I couldn't really dry my stuff. It would have just frozen solid. So I just packed up all my wet crap and went about my day. The next day, it was real, real cold. And I mean like below 10. And everything I have is soaking wet. I'm like, what are you going to do? You know, I put on my camp and, you know, I, the way I would deal with the real cold weather was I'd have hand warmers in my sleeping bag. So I knew I wasn't going to freeze to death. You know what I mean? I had I had money on the street, and I always had a supply of hand warmers. If I was cold in my sleeping bag, I'd crack open another pair of them. Sometimes I'd have like 8 of them going at once in my sleeping bag. I um, I didn't mind, I could afford it, So that the morning when I woke up, I went to sleep. It's 10 degrees out. Everything I have is soaking wet. When I woke up the next day, everything I had was basically frozen solid. I couldn't untie my knots to get my little shelter down. I had to like do it with my teeth. Like I had to bite it and but the knots were like ice around them. It was nuts, dude. I'll never forget it. But so, believe me, mornings like that, the last thing I wanted to do was pack up all my crap and drag it over up. I'm going uphill to go to where I get my coffee in the morning. Um, and so yeah, I get it. But the thing is, when you push through that and you have the discipline to force yourself to do the right thing and to be disciplined and to keep your stuff organized and not just ditch it, it puts you on another level. It puts you on another level mentally. That's another reason when all these things have an impact on you. You know what I mean? That was another reason why I would walk around New York in kind of a fearless way. I'm not a big dude, but I carry myself as if I'm a giant. So like people, when I'd get into it with people, they'd see the look in my eyes and they'd be like, there's something about this kid, man. This kid's a wolf or something. And it's because I forced myself to live in a disciplined way. I've worked out multiple times a day, even though I was homeless. 10 degrees out, I was still doing my push-ups. I'd get to my spot at night, and I'd be like, I don't feel like doing my push-ups, but you know what? This is what separates me from the rest of these people. And it's like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm the toughest, I'm the hardest, I'm the coolest. I'm telling you the mentality you should have if you want to be the best version of yourself. These things have an impact. When you live with discipline and you do things right, and I always looked at it as training, you know what I'm saying? I looked at it as like, this is like friggin' special forces training. The shit that they go through with the wet and the cold, and they still got to work out, and sometimes they can't eat. I used to think to myself, this is special forces training, bro. So don't complain, don't cry, don't feel bad for yourself. Be grateful because God is turning you into a machine. You know what I mean? So don't get me wrong. There was plenty of times where I'd be like, "Fuck this shit!" Like, I'd be so upset, man. I'd be like, but I'm not the type to get sad. I get mad. And truthfully, that's it. It's a survival tactic. Sad gets you killed. Mad gets you, pulls you through. You know what I mean? Anyways, let's get to the equipment. So I actually took notes on this, but my point here is don't ditch your stuff for a million reasons. First of all, it's going to toughen you up to keep it on you. Second of all, it's more efficient. You don't got to waste everyone's money to get you new stuff all the time. And as you get more money and you get more comfortable on the street, you get better at it. You'll get more money, you get better stuff. Most of the time when I was on the street, I had a piece of crap $30 Coleman sleeping bag from Kmart that was rated for 50 degrees. When I think back on it, I'm like, and there was times, I'm not kidding you, where I slept in below 10 degrees in a 50-degree sleeping bag with nothing else except a poncho liner and hand warmers. And I'm like, I think back on it, man. One night, me and my buddy Ben stayed out on Broadway. We didn't feel like going all the way to our spot, which was a little far. We dropped down in a bus stop because we seen it had like shelter. What we didn't realize was once we got all our shit set up and we laid down in our sleeping bags, what we didn't notice was the bus stop didn't there was like a foot or two between the ground and the bus stop wall. So we had the wind blasting right through our spot all night. And that night it was below 10 degrees. That's why we didn't go to our spot. We didn't feel like having numb hands when we got there trying to set up our spot. Ben didn't even have a sleeping bag. I'll never forget it. But he did have a dog, Sadie, who was like a little oven, you know. So he had Sadie wrapped around him. But I'll never forget it, man. That was one of the coldest nights of my life, and it was due to low temperature and wind. So the proper equipment now. First thing you're gonna have to handle is storage. So you're gonna need a backpack. Get the best one you can afford. A cheap backpack is gonna break down. It's gonna cause more problems than it solves. I've had cheap backpacks when I was a kid. My mother got me some piece of crap backpack and it just fell apart real quick. So when I got older, I always bought the best. You know, once I was in high school and I actually like cared about things, I wouldn't let my mother get me a cheap backpack. Back then, I had a JanSport, which JanSports are pretty good, but nowadays I'm all about the North Face backpacks. Now, I've got to say, I think North Face's quality has gone down a little bit over the years, but I've still got a really good North Face backpack. But my old one was actually probably better. My old North Face, I had the Jester. But the problem was I was stuffing so much crap into it that eventually the zipper broke, but that was my fault for overstuffing it. So don't overstuff your backpack. I don't care how good your backpack is. If you overstuff it, you're going to destroy it and make it useless. Um, Now North Face will replace it for free, but the problem is they're going to send it to California to get repaired, and then so you're going to go like a month without a backpack. So when my North Face Jester broke down, I went to North Face and I'm like, okay, replace my backpack. Let's see if they actually do it. They're like, okay, well, we got to send it to California. I was like, oh man. I was like, I live on the street, bro. I need my backpack. They're like, nah, well, you know, we can't just whatever, you know? So I said, all right. And I just bought another one. I had money. I was one of the richest homeless people on earth. But my suggestion is, yeah, North Face makes good backpacks. Those are the ones I have the most experience with, so those are the ones I recommend. As long as you don't overpack it, it should be good. Now, the other thing, it depends on how much weight you want to carry, but I also had this really nice North Face luggage with the wheels on it. The best rolling luggage you're ever going to see. And I went through I had a Victorinox one. I had two Victorinox ones, which I completely destroyed living on the street. The only one that was worth having was the North Face one. Now, they're really hard to get now. I've looked on Amazon and I don't see them anymore. But it's called the North Face Long Haul. And I had the 30 liter, I think. But it has like rollerblade wheels on it. And that's the other upside to it is once I had it for years, and eventually the wheels went to shit because I put so many miles on the thing. It was not the luggage's fault. I had the thing attached to a back of a bicycle, and I'd be riding all over the city with it. And so eventually the wheels went bad, but that's the upside to the North Face one. You can repair it. So I went to the sport equipment store and I bought rollerblade wheels, took the old North Face wheels off, put some rollerblade wheels on it, and I had spare wheels, you know? So that was what I did for a rolling luggage. Before I had the bike, I used to just drag it behind me. Um, and yeah, I tend to be heavy with my stuff. Now, as far as like sleeping, what I in the beginning, oh, another thing with storage is plastic bags. Whenever you buy anything, keep the plastic bags. They come in really handy. You can waterproof things really quickly with a plastic bag. If it's pouring rain, things in your backpack are going to get wet, and certain things you don't want getting wet, like phone chargers and stuff. You put them in just a plastic grocery bag, wrap them up. It's waterproof. Water ain't getting in there. Um, I would use them if I had food. I'd put them in the plastic bag and tie it up. This way, no bugs could get at it. It would keep your food fresher. Um, they come in handy in a million different ways. Plastic bags, very important piece of equipment, which is free. Every time I would buy something, I never threw the bag out. I always kept the bag. Now, as far as the sleeping setup, I can actually show y'all my sleeping setup. I brought it out so this way I can finally show y'all what I'm talking about. I'm gonna have to reverse the camera. All right, so this is a poncho liner, and see how you can tie it? Like poncho liners have these like things attached so you can tie it up as a shelter if you want to. Now this is my Swagman roll, which is basically like a lightweight summer sleeping bag. It's rated for like 50 degrees. This is my 30-degree sleeping bag, so when it's not cold out, I basically put my sleeping bag inside the Swagman roll, which makes just more padding. It's kind of like a mattress. Then I did this, since it's tied at the bottom there, I just hook it onto the bottom of my Swagman roll, and then this is the poncho liner is kind of like my blanket, you know. But when it's cold out, I'll get inside the sleeping bag, which is inside the Swagman roll. The Swagman roll is waterproof. You can sit there in the rain with this thing and not get wet. The poncho liner is water resistant, but it's not waterproof. So that's my sleep system. And that's that's the best one that I've come up with over the years. That Swagman roll. It's gonna run you about 150 bucks, but it's also a poncho. You can unzip it and put it on like a poncho, which I never did. I just would get wet in the rain. I was out in the weather so much, I didn't even care. I didn't feel like putting it, I would just get to a dry place. I'm not gonna sit there. What I would do is wrap my luggage in my military poncho, but we'll get to that. So hopefully I explained the sleeping system. My sleeping bag is a Kelty, which they're pretty good. They're all right. They're not the best, they're not the worst. They're about mid-range, I'd say. That sleeping bag is rated for 30 degrees, costing me about 100 bucks. That with the Swagman roll and the poncho liner, you're good all year round. And then when it's cold, use some hand warmers. Or it depends on your climate. You might need a 0-degree sleeping bag. I don't know. But the problem with a 0-degree sleeping bag is it's only good in the winter. You can't do shit with that in the spring, summer, and fall. You're gonna be way too hot, bro. So that's where the Swagman roll comes in. I use that sleeping bag, the Swagman roll, more than anything else because it's it's the best all-weather sleeping bag. It's not too hot, it's not too cool. It's like perfect. You're good in the Swagman roll down to about 45, 50 degrees. The coldest I've stayed in just the Swagman roll was probably mid 40s, and I was fine. Um, Now the next thing is clothes. So when you're in a place like New York City, you got four seasons. You know, you're experiencing all four seasons all the way. It's going to be hot in the summer. It's going to be cold in the winter. So when you're carrying everything you own, you're not going to want to be carrying a winter coat around. A lot of homeless people, what they would do is they would just wait till the winter and then get someone to buy them a winter coat, and then come spring they would just ditch it. But that's not what I did. What I did was I had a nice North Face hoodie, which was thin fleece. It's in my trailer back there. I can't really show it to you right now, but it's a thin fleece hoodie which has some like Cortex or Gore-Tex, whatever, on the shoulders and hood, so it's water resistant. That's my, well, also I had the Under Armour base layer. I've got multiple pairs of that Under Armour compression stuff, which it's like skin tight. It's almost like having a wetsuit. So that would be my base layer. Wool socks are the best for the winter. And then, you know, I'd put, if it was cold, then I'd put a pair of sweatpants over the base layer, then a pair of jeans over the sweatpants, and I'd have my thin fleece hoodie, and then I had a Patagonia fleece, which they're not cheap, but they're one of the, that thing is almost as warm as a winter coat, but it's a fleece pullover. They're a little heavy. They're not as heavy as a winter coat. They're a little bulky, but they're not as bulky as a winter coat. So I kept a Patagonia fleece during the spring, summer, and fall. I would just fold it up tight and put it in my luggage. And then and then my other layer was a North Face Gore-Tex jacket, which was waterproof. So when it was cold, I'd wear everything, and I'd be waterproof because of the North Face Gore-Tex jacket. Um, but all those things, my North Face fleece hoodie, my Patagonia fleece, and my North Face Gore-Tex jacket would fold down to, they don't take up much space. That would make up like my winter coat. And since it's layered, it's you're good all year round. All right, so this is my North Face hoodie, which is thin fleece. It's badass, dude. I love it. So you can see how it's like, it's thin fleece. You know what I mean? This is my North Face Gore-Tex jacket, which is waterproof, and then this is my Patagonia pullover fleece, which this needs to be washed. It's usually fluffier than that, but so yeah, there's my winter. These three equal a good winter coat, and you can wear them in any order or whatever. You're good for any weather with those three. Down to, I'd be outside all day, 20 degrees, doing portraits sometimes, which I wouldn't make a lot of money in 20 degrees, but I could be out there all day in that. So there's my little winter clothes setup. And this is my fox fur hat. Someone in the comments one time said it's not real fox fur. It is, buddy. Trust me on that. It's a badass hat, dude. Hold on. I'll model it for you. Yeah. So, fucking badass winter hat, dude. Sometimes you need one of the things, sometimes you need two of them, sometimes you need all three. But I'll link all this stuff in the description. I'll try to. Not sure if you're gonna be able to get the exact hoodie I got, but I'll link the closest thing I can find to it. So that's the clothes situation. Then in the summer, just shorts and wife beaters. That's me in the summer. I kept 2 pairs of shorts and a ton of wife beaters because wife beaters don't take up any space. I can, 10 wife beaters takes up a space like this. And, a couple of t-shirts, but in the summer I never really wore. I would just wear, a wife beater because it's too hot for me to be wearing a t-shirt. Same with Florida. So we got the sleeping system, we got the clothing. This is gonna end up being a long video. I might have to make this in 2 parts. I don't know. So then you're gonna have to have some way to gather money, aka resources. So if you have any type of artistic ability, I'm gonna make a video on how to make money. But what you're gonna need to make money is you're gonna need to make a sign. So cardboard and a marker. And then eventually you can upgrade to a plywood sign. I'll show y'all how to make a sign in my money making video, where I'll show you how to sell your art on the street, or if you photography, whatever. I'll show you how to do that. You can make a sign out of plywood that'll fold down. I'll show you how to do that in the money video. So, in order to make money, you're going to need cardboard or plywood and a marker. Now, then you got security. You got to keep your stuff from being stolen. So, there's a million ways you can do it. What I used to do is I took paracord. I'd tie it to all my stuff, and then I would tie that to my sleeping bag. So if anyone grabbed anything, it would pull on my sleeping bag and wake me up, and it's worked before. Someone tried to steal my North Face Gore-Tex jacket, which is badass. It's camouflage. Someone tried to steal that. It woke me up. I caught him, and he hauled ass. So whatever you don't want stolen, you tie the paracord to it, tie it to your sleeping bag, or tie it to your own leg. I used to do that too. Obviously, you don't want to cut the circulation off. You tie it loose. Um, when I was first homeless and I would take a nap in Penn Station, I would strap my backpack to my leg. So if anyone grabbed it, it would wake me up. So another thing you can do, you can put a tripwire up attached to empty cans if you're sleeping in Central Park or the woods or something. You set up tripwires with empty cans tied on the end, so if someone trips it, the cans clink together, it wakes you up. You could do it with empty bottles, cans. Cans are easier. I never bothered with all that, but that's something you can do. Paracord, paracord is so useful. It's hard to make cordage out of shrubbery. It's not an easy thing to do. I can do it, but it takes a long time. It's tedious work. You're better off buying a roll of paracord. Um, it's invaluable. To another thing that's very useful is those little bungee cords. They're just little tiny bungee cords. You can tie stuff to your backpack with them. You can use them for security. There's a million, paracord and little bungee cords that are so useful, so valuable. Um, then you got self-defense. Me personally, I trust in my hands. I'm a pretty good boxer. Here's a funny thing about getting into fights on the street. A lot of people will think they can just run you over, but once they realize that you're not afraid to fight and you're confident in your abilities to do so, they don't want it. I've had so many people where I'm squaring up and they decide against it because I'm confident and I actually like to box. So I'm like, this clown is about to get schooled out here, and it's like they can almost read your mind. You know what I mean? Because they can just tell, like, hold up, this kid is ready. Am I ready? I don't think so. Like I had that happen more than once, and I'm talking people you would think were, you'd be a lot of people would have been scared of them and they were bigger than me a lot of the time. But I'm confident. I hit hard, bro, and I'm confident if I catch someone on the chin, it's going to be lights out. So they can sense that when they're like, when I'm squaring up and getting ready, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, all I need is one shot, And I'm not trying to sound like a bass. I'm just saying this is when you have that mentality, people can sense it literally, and they're like, wait a minute, you know, I don't want this. Enough, but other times I'd get into it with truly dangerous people. In those situations, I would just be very vigilant because I know these people they're not stupid and they are dangerous. And if they if they want you, they're gonna they're gonna do it in a slick way. So you got to be very vigilant. Don't be going the same routes all the time. Change your routes up because if someone's trying to rob you and they know your patterns, they're gonna catch you. So I would I had a plywood sign that folded down into like this little block of wood, and I'd keep that in my hand, thinking to myself, it's just as good as a bat, just about. If I crack someone in the face with it, because there was people that I almost got into it with who could beat me with hands. I knew that. I'm not delusional. I know my limits. You know what I mean? And there's people on the street who can whoop my ass if I don't have a weapon. But if I got a weapon, I can whoop their ass. So a good weapon to carry. And look, this is a last resort. You're better off just using your hands and losing a fight. You don't want to. There's people out there who are fragile, where if you crack them upside the head, they're going to lose their life. You know what I mean? So only in self-defense do you use a weapon. Now, I would never use a knife in self-defense unless I'm in a fight to the death. Like if you're trying to kill me, then I'm going to try to kill you. That's the only time I'd use a knife, which it never even came close to that out on the street. But I was close to using my little stack of plywood more than once because when a dangerous motherfucker thinks you got a lot of money and they're planning on robbing you, I wasn't gonna try to kill him with a knife, but I was gonna try to crack his head wide open with that piece of plywood. Anyways, I don't want to talk too much about that. But here's the thing: 9 times out of 10, just stick with your hands. you know, you can learn basic self-defense off of YouTube. Boxing is all about technique. I don't care. You don't even have to be strong to hit hard, and that's the truth. If you swing right, it's all about like velocity. If you can get your hands moving fast enough and you catch someone right, you will knock them out. Anyways, that's self-defense, but that's something. Don't even worry about it. If you're cool and you're a peaceful person, people aren't gonna just be starting fights with you and shit. The reason I would get into it sometimes is because I got a bit of a temper, and sometimes I was just acting like an asshole. You know what I mean? And other than that, I I got along with everyone. But every once in a while, you just clash with people. You know what I mean? So that's self defense. Now you got comfort, entertainment. Get yourself a smartphone. You can get them at friggin' CVS for you can get them cheap nowadays, like $30. You don't need to pay the bill. Just use the Wi Fi. If you're in a city, there's going to be free Wi Fi around. Download a book reader, download some books. This way, when you're in your spot at night, you can read a book. You don't need internet. That's what I would do when I couldn't afford internet. Or I would have movies downloaded on my phone. But mostly I would read books when I couldn't afford internet. I like to read. So you download a book reader, you get some books. Now, transportation, a bicycle is the best transportation. I will try to add a picture of my setup with my bike and my luggage attached to it. I'd be riding down the street in New York. People would pull up next to me in their car and be like, "Damn, bro, I never seen that. You got like your whole house behind you on a bike." Like, people were impressed by it. I'm trying to not go over a half hour here. So, okay, then you got shelter. This is my military poncho. This was my main form of shelter. It's a military poncho. You can get them for probably less than $50. They have military boot shoelaces tied on the corners and in the middle. So it's a poncho, but it's also a shelter. And this was my shelter the whole time I was homeless. Now, another thing you're gonna need for shelter is a tarp. Now this is my camouflage tarp. This was my ground cover, but I could also use it for shelter because I tied paracord on all the grommets on it. So you know what I'm saying? This is another useful thing. I got that at Home Depot for like $30. It's just a camouflage tarp. Um, if you don't want to carry the tarp is not light. The military poncho is heavy for its size, but to me, both of those things are so useful that I didn't care about the weight. You can get lighter, better tarps than that. That's a kind of a cheap tarp. Um, that's why it's so heavy because it's a cheap one. Um, okay, then tools. Now, as far as tools, if you got a bicycle, you're going to need some bicycle repair tools. You're going to have to be able to change a tire on a bicycle. It's not a hard thing to do. Have some extra inner tubes. There's tools for changing a tire on a bike. Just there's things to get the tire off, and they're very useful to have. Go to any bike shop, get yourself this stuff to change a tire on a bike. You're gonna need a screwdriver with the tips to change. Pliers are invaluable. That's one thing. A lot of tools you can just make if you need them, but pliers you can't. You can maybe make pliers, but they're not gonna work like real pliers. So there's pliers are worth having. Sewing equipment to sew your stuff. Um, a portable saw is good. It just comes in handy. Um, and a knife And my favorite pliers are the vice grip pliers. Now, I guess I can show y'all some tools real quick. We're at 33. Yeah, it's fine. This is the last thing I'm going over anyway. So let's see. Wait. All right. So all right. Shit. Now these are vice grip pliers. They will lock on to stuff. You know what I mean? I'll show you what I mean. Hold up. Hold on. Man, this is fucking. Wait, I'll put this here so hopefully y'all can see. Alright, so. Like that. Can you see that? Alright. Like, so. They lock onto stuff like this. See what I mean? And then to get it off, you push this off. To adjust it, you turn that. You see that thing? That thing. You turn that to adjust the size. You know what I mean? So it would go like, I'm turning it to tighten it now. And you see how it's closing up. That's, you turn this thing. So yeah, I mean, my truck is wrecked. This is from when the girl rammed into me. Everything just got completely destroyed. Let's see if I'll show you. Oh, okay, these are good screwdrivers because you can you know, it's got all the tips and everything in there. So these are great screwdrivers, and all those tips work in in um in a drill too. So, but most of my tools, I keep my tools. Hold on. I keep my tools in my spare tire well. Can y'all see that? Hopefully you can see that. But that's where I keep my tools. Box cutter is a handy thing to have. But yeah. So hold on. Man, that's fucking annoying. I knew that shit was gonna happen. Alright, so hopefully I explained pretty well the proper equipment for being homeless. Wow, I did that in under 40 minutes. That's pretty good. I was thinking this was going to be like an hour-long video. So, if you made it this far, I appreciate you for that. It really helps me in the algorithm if you watch the whole video. So, thanks for watching the whole thing. Welcome to all the new people. And I'm thinking I might start going live every Wednesday night, but I've got to get internet first. Which night is best for going live? I'm thinking maybe Wednesday. And it's going to be, I'm going to show y'all just funny things that I find on the internet during the week. And that's what we'll do on Wednesday nights. I'll go live maybe 8 o'clock Wednesday nights. If anyone's got a suggestion of a better time, I'm all ears. I'm thinking Wednesday nights at 8 is good because it's like midweek. And maybe I'll go live for an hour or two on Wednesday nights and just give y'all something to look forward to midweek, because it's going to be based mostly on comedy, because I find some really funny shit on the internet during the week, and we'll just go over that stuff. And some of the comments I put on some of this shit, I gotta say, I'm a huge fan of my humor. I crack myself up. So maybe I'll start doing that Wednesday nights, just go live and show y'all the funny stuff that I find on the internet. And I'm still waiting for my how to quit smoking weed video to get approved. It's been 4 or 5 days. I filmed it twice. I'm waiting for approval on both or either one. So As soon as that's approved, I'll put it out. If they reject it, then I'm just going to put it out anyway, and it's just going to get less views. But so I appreciate every single one of you. Thanks for the comments, the likes, the subscribes. Thanks for the tips. Thanks for the Patreon support. Appreciate every single one of you. Everybody have a good one. I'll try to link all this stuff in the description. And if you have any questions, throw them in the comments, and I'll answer as many as I can. I mean, I can't just sit there all day answering comments, but I'll answer the first, as I always do, the first 10, 20. So everybody have a good one. I'll see y'all on the next one. If there's any particular video you want to see, let me know. I've got a bunch of videos I want to make, but if anyone's got anything in particular they want to see, let me know. So yeah, have a good one. I'll see y'all on the next one. I'll let you know when I'm going to start going live. All right, see y'all on the next one.